The following may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Trinidad and Tobago is under a state of emergency. This is the last line of defense by the government as it attempts to stifle the surging COVID-19 numbers and deaths in the hope it will give the overburdened healthcare system some much-needed breathing room. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley announced the latest restrictions at a media conference on Saturday at the Diplomatic Center in St. Anne's. I'm sorry that it has come to coffins and faces of dead people for us to realize that we are in and always have been in a very difficult place, Rowley told the country. Rowley said he had consulted with both the Attorney General and the Ministry of Health before making the decision. From midnight on Saturday, Trinidad and Tobago will be under a state of emergency, he said. The SOE comes with a 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. If you don't have to be out for exempted reasons, stay home under the force of law, Rowley said. We will do what we have to do to further minimize the opportunities for infection, and we are expecting that with a population that is now even more responsive, that this is a time to take it serious and take it personal. The Prime Minister said contrary to what people believe, it was not feasible to simply shut down the country. Even to be home, you need people to be out, he said. Rowley did not give a time frame for the lifting of the SOE, but indicated that the length will be determined by the response from the citizenry. None of us in the country have ever been in a state of emergency during a pandemic. Take that. Use that as your guide, he said in response to questions on when the SOE would end. This is not a comparison to another state of emergency. This situation calls for this, and the length of it will be determined by the response. I am saying the more cooperative the response, the shorter will be the period. The last time the country had a state of emergency called was in August 2011. Under the then People's Partnership government. However, that SOE was called to address a spiraling crime situation. Just weeks ago, Rowley said that an SOE and the inherent loss of constitutional rights was unnecessary. On Saturday, however, he defended the change in that stance. All of that has been solved by me using the state of emergency, which is properly ensconced in the laws of T&T, he said. I didn't want to use the provision that is existing now in the Public Health Ordinance because not very many people give the respect to the ordinance that they give to the state of emergency. The Prime Minister said that with lives at stake, he had to do all that was necessary to save those lives. Rowley said the numbers of those lost to COVID-19 now had faces and were being seen. So we are no longer dealing with numbers. We are dealing with 21 deaths in one day. And if you bring that down to an hour, it's almost one person dying every hour. That is a frightening situation, he said. If that is allowed to multiply, very soon we would be happy when it is only 21, because it can go to a place where 21 is a great improvement. Because the more we are allowing ourselves to be infected, that population of infected people would generate a larger population of sick people and would generate a larger population of dead people. We don't need the police. We don't need the army. You know what needs to be done. The Prime Minister praised the citizens for their handling of the restrictions and lockdowns last year, but said that things were not the same this year. 1 year later, it's a different story. We now have vaccines to be had. We know people who got sick and got over, and of course, it's only 5 people dead, 1 dead. Some days nobody dead. So we do what we want, he said. As we are running out of space, as more people are becoming sick, and a fraction of those people are requiring beds, and beds are becoming unavailable, we have to be even more cooperative than we were last year. Unfortunately, that is not what we have been having. Rowley said he was not blaming anyone but simply pointing out the facts. We have a population that is scared, he said. I woke up to advice that we would press the panic button. The question arises, is the state still in a position to say that we will provide health care to those who want it? What cannot be said is that we did not put arrangements in place for a reasonable response. The Prime Minister said that the numbers given by the Ministry of Health were just a part of the real story, as the numbers could be worse. These are confirmed cases that have come to the attention of the health authorities, Rowley said, as he warned against people congregating and rushing to the supermarkets after his announcement. It might be this evening that when you go rushing to pay for the gas that you rush for, that you pick up COVID-19 and carry home to your grandmother or your child. There is no need, he said. You may get COVID in a supermarket where you end up in a crowd trying to get the last tin of salmon or whatever you went for, and how sensible would that have been? The Prime Minister said he will always choose life over livelihoods. During her presentation, Thoracic Medical Director at the Cara Hospital, Dr. Michelle Trotman, thanked the Prime Minister for calling the SOE, saying it would help to freeze movement of citizens. And I beg the population to indeed freeze. We don't need the police. We don't need the army. You know what needs to be done, Trotman said. We in the health field is saying our backs are breaking. Trotman said there were more than 4,000 people at home with the virus, and while some were asymptomatic, others were ill. We have to respond to these people also, she said. She said that the step-down facilities gave health officials a chance to catch their breath and gave them room to deal with acute care patients. The Prime Minister said that as a long-time follower of Calypso, 2 Calypsonians had come to his aid. He said Brother Madada, who said the ting don't care in his song, was the first. So understand that nobody is exempted from this, Rowley said. And Devon Sale had come to my aid to appeal to you when he says in his Calypso, don't jackass the thing, Rowley added. Exemptions from SOE, Ministry of National Security, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Energy, Ports and Airports, all tentacles of the food supply chain, pharmacies and public transport.